Hi, Rick Harsh here. Uh, Brought to you by the grace of Saber Guitars. Sever, Saber. Oh, there's a little hair on the screen. Look, Thursday, I got three more books to sell to you, and all three microline. Look at that. That's how it's going to look. This is all of our microline books, and of course, the first three were reprints. There's the lift. They look so damn good. They really have been a good decision. These three are all new. I'm going to. It's taken me a few days to get down to it, and I think maybe because one of them is mine, and I don't know what to say about it. But the first one is my mother's. My mother made a cookbook 20 years ago or so, and just for friends. But let me. I think I had to put it on Goodreads, and let's see. I'll just read what I wrote here because I don't. Because it's just a cookbook. It's just a cookbook, but I had to write something and a description of the book, and I got a little bit inspired. My Family Cookbook by Ellie Harsh. Imagine, 93 years old, she published her first book. We'll see if she adds to it, but anyway, I say this book was first written some decades ago as a humble gesture to friends of my mother, who's now 93 years old. As the chief editor of Corona Samizdat Press, me, look, I put a big one on the back, or Zach did, but under my express direction. My very expansive and inclusive view of what makes a book and what makes a writer makes me feel foolish that it took nearly 5 years to get the idea of publishing my mother's plastic spiral-spined cookbook. Made it into a real book. She took the notion seriously, never actually considering herself the author of a book, which is probably a good lesson for a lot of people who do. The dedication that went into this humble book made for a very organic and sincere effort. But there's more. This is an artifact for anthropologists, sociologists, and historians of latter 20th century Americana, not only Midwestern. We were Midwestern. Not until she and my father retired did they move out west. But by virtue of her sister's migration to California, where she lived with her Mexican husband. Many of the recipes in the book came from my Aunt Jan. And so there's a Mexican flavor here. Often brand names are offered as reflects an era post-dating the farm cooking and predating the more politically oriented recipes ushered in by self-help, health-conscious diets, and variants on vegetarianism. It's pretty funny. There's one remark in here where she gives a recipe for vegan or vegetarian hamburgers, and she couldn't help but add at the end that let's see, vegetables. Well, I don't know. She makes a remark like, it's a lot of work for a hamburger, which is true. If you make your hamburger out of meat, you just, do this, flatten it out, get the heat on really high, and, if it's good meat, you cook it quickly. If it's ordinary meat, you cook it quickly. That's all there is to it. But a vegetarian one takes more work. Anyway, I would also recommend you consider the language of cooking, its poetics, as in, for instance, dredge chicken with flour, shake off excess. Yeah, so that's what I had to say about this book. I have no idea if anybody will buy a cookbook, but you know, why not? Why not? And then also, it's beautifully done. Beautifully done. Photographed by Sasha Muniza. And, well, that's that book. The next book is a David Vardaman book, one of his novellas stretched into a novel by the format. It's a in microline pagination. It's 180 pages, and it's a I can't remember what Vardaman called it, but I would call it a bit of a lark. It doesn't have the darkness that Vardaman always has. Or it has a little of it, but it is just extremely funny and odd. And I think that's probably a very charitable view of the human species. Uh, very, very, very funny and very odd we are. And look at the cover. Vardaman's our rabbit guy. So we will have a book coming up in the Microline series that is a collection of rabbit art by this same person. And you'll be seeing it as the microlines start really coming down the line. If we could publish everything that's on our list right now, it would be probably at least 10 microline books. We have some really good ones coming up. And we also have books that have been promised for a long time. Some of them will be bigger. We have one really great book coming by a new writer named Matthew Kostmeyer. And he, I think, wants it to be more or less in the size and shape of the Jeff Bursey Assuma position. And who am I to argue? I think, well, I don't know. If that's what he wants, that's what he's going to get. And I'm very anxious for you to meet this guy's writing. I think he's extremely, extremely talented. And we're always feeling lucky when we come across something like that. And the next book, the last book this time around, is by me. And, you may wonder, he's the chief editor, and so he had one of his books, one of my favorites, actually, The Periplus of Spurtank Road. Well, I gave a lot away because it was so thin, so small, but we got new artwork on it by Arkapravo Baumik. Really great stuff. And this one, the artwork is actually the spark that lit my ass to write this. It's a dark, ugly, not entirely ugly, but it's a this is why it took me 3 days or 4 days to announce these books, because I didn't know what I wanted to say about this. All I can say is I had something autobiographical to say. I've always had a lot of people tell me I should write my autobiography, but I never had the slightest inkling or desire to do it. I wrote one that turned out very good, June and the Good Snake. It was about my drinking and some other things that I don't want to talk about right now. And I don't want to talk much about this right now. I think you'll find it interesting. Some of you will say I should never have given that guy $10 for that, given his political views. They are extreme, my political views, and I do cover a lot of ground in this, but it goes from the personal to political, and the personal part is, there's some stuff in here. When I reread it after printing it, and I thought to myself, that's weird that I would have done that. There are, I think, three um typos. One says I snake bake, and it's supposed to say I snake back. I snake back to the difference between fighting from existential belief, existential pressure versus what the fuck, which was a t-shirt popular at Farouk Q, where Osama got the idea that the war began in Palestine at Zionist behest, which we cannot determine readily, yet it's raining spanners in Europe these days. It's it's worth the money. It's worth the money. That's a photograph of my father, who's deceased, and me in Croatia. And the photograph my mother sent said Rick and Jack in Croatia on the photograph. It's right here, and I don't know, some kind of metallic thing it's printed on. And so when I got that for Christmas this year, it sent me into a sort of state, and I wanted to work it out. And so this is a, a memoir that's like all good memoirs. There's an element of evisceration to it, um, and I don't know. Once you get into that mode, you can't do nothing but tell the truth, and you don't really benefit at all um, by saying, nah, nobody needs to know that, nobody needs to read that. You just what it wants to come out comes out, and so what you get is a very honest and hopefully somewhat affecting little book, and so I hope some people would like to read it, and that's that. The next three books are going to be um, Zach Tanner's I Was a Teenage Psychonaut, also in this form, and Mark Douglas's next book of poetry, which may be in this form. I leave that to him and Zach to determine. And then Randall Eldon Green's book of short stories. I don't know the title. Then after that, the next three are going to be Luke Dellen's Neme Stoned, yes. And that might not be a microline, but it might be. And then Roberto Segrov's incredible book of short stories called Decreation, and that is going to be really good. And Gargi Barua, a woman from Assam in India, a very, very, very interesting and good first novel. And then somewhat short, but that's kind of what one of the ideas in the microline books is that we can accommodate any size. They can be fatter. The fattest one we got right now is Raging Joy's Sublime Violations, and it's really a nice size. I've taken it to a couple of appointments and really gotten a lot out of sitting and rereading Broussard on Vietnam. We also have coming up Adolfo Villafuerte's the translation of his Entre Lunas. That would probably be the next round. And, depending on the money, if Kostmeyer's, his book is ready, but, I don't know if we'll have the money in time. We might just, we have more work by Segrov. He's prepared a book about, and the poet, Argentine, I believe, surrealist poet named Pellegrini, and he's written a brief introduction about Pellegrini, I think, and he's translated a what would you call it? No, what the fuck? I can't. A manifesto. Yeah, manifesto. The Surrealist Manifesto of an Argentine um, poet, and he's translated several of the poems. Um, I don't know how many, but probably at least, I don't know, 10 to 15, I would guess. But that's another one coming up in the Microline series. So we got a lot of good books coming. We've got novels by Ontiveros and others, others, um, some interesting, very interesting books coming up. Nick Voro, we have a book by Nick Voro coming that I swear is noir, and I don't think he considers it noir. So that'll be an interesting test of the noir. We'll see. That'll be coming, and a book by two people who go by X in parentheses, and otherwise I don't know them. We have, oh shit, he's from Tampa, and God damn, I'm getting old. I'm getting old and forgetting names. We got a lot of these coming up, but you might want to start getting them now because you got a new Vardaman, the first in more than 2 years, and it's very funny and unique, and you really want to, I don't. It's hard for me to push my own book, but I want to see what people think of this. I want to see what people who hate it think of it, and how they express it, and people who like it. I feel really weird because what I put on the back, I have a blurb from John Dixon who says, Rick Harsh continues to map the personal and the global in oneiric terror. Rick and Jack in Croatia is a bitter cordial of being opposing a concentrate of nothingness. Harsh's international concerns should be our own. Sounds like a blurb, but it's a good one. But this is one that kind of embarrasses me now. I asked David Vardaman, he was reading it, and I asked him, to comment as, I just sent as I went along. And I asked him for, a blurb, and I wrote one. I said, if you can't think of one, here's one. And he's, when he wrote me, he said, well, I could come up with one, but maybe we can use the one you wrote. But he started that message with, Dear Rick, my apologies for the delay in responding. As for my unfiltered immediate reaction, which is always the best indicator as I never find words for my instincts until much later, I will tell you that upon reading the last sentence of Rick and Jack in Croatia, I said out loud, wow, which might sound insipid, but I assure you was reverent. Now, and I thought I was so happy to read that from David that I decided to put it on back. And now looking at it on back, I'm thinking like, where is my humility? And doesn't that sounds like something that, people who don't like me much would make fun of. But I did it, and I put it there. And it is true that he said that. And it is true that, as a writer, that's one of the things that can make you feel really good. When someone whose opinion you value writes something like that, it's got to make you feel good. So I'm pushing this because we have to sell these things. And I think once people start to buy these microlines, they're going to want more. They're really artful. Zach has done a great job of putting these together. Just look at this, and then I'm kind of dumb, I wanted this one on the front because I like that demonic look, but that is clearly the one that needs to go on front. And they fit the book actually as well in their way. I mean, not literally in the leporine sense, but figuratively. All right, that's 20 fucking minutes of babbling. So, make it worth my while. Buy a couple of these, huh? All right. Bye.